Hello there, I'm glad to welcome you to this week's edition of Roundtable. The Roundtable is a program where we discuss salient national issues that matter to you and to me. On this edition, it's going to be very, very different because I'm not here alone. I'm here with another person. It's a dual presentation this morning. Simiat Tabar is here with me. Simiat, good morning.
Good morning, and of course, thank you for joining the roundtable this morning. And it promises to be educative because we're talking about what is very important to the Ogun State citizen and, of course, Nigeria as a whole.
Ogun State is the gateway state, and whatever happens to Ogun State affects the whole country because Ogun State is a gateway to Nigeria. So, without wasting any of our time, we would take this very short break. When we return, I will introduce my guests and the topic of discussion this morning. That you are still there. The program is the Roundtable, and the topic we are discussing today is the prospects of the 2025 budgets in Ogun State. No other person is qualified to help us dissect this topic aside from the Honorable Commissioner, Budget and Planning in Ogun State, Honorable OLABIMTAN. He is here. Good morning, sir.
Very good morning. Thank you for having me.
And we are really glad to have you join us on this. Well, let's just dive into it because our time is already fast spent. Budgets. If my memory serves me right, this is the first time Ogun State will be having a budget of above ₦1 trillion.
That's correct.
This is ambitious. This shows what to expect. How did we come up to? You are the brain behind it. How did you come up package all this and?
Thank you very much. You are right, it is indeed ambitious, but you are far too kind. I am not the only person behind it. Of course, we're working under the leadership of His Excellency, Prince Abeokuta, CON, and we also have the Chief Economic Advisor, and I have the Permanent Secretary and my directors. It's a whole team, you know. So we come up with this because we know that we must expand this economy. You know, if you recall, the current budget is 703 billion. Now, when you factor inflation at around 30% to that, you know, you end up at about 900 billion. So what are we saying? If we intend to just do exactly what we did in 2024, we would have to spend 900 billion. And where would that get us? Flat. Yeah. And so we just must strive to move forward. We came up under His Excellency to say that we must make this economy grow. And that's what we're trying to do. But by the way, beyond just number crunching and saying, you know, you need to stay at this level, you need to grow, there is also the funding side of it, which is actually another thing that, you know, we put into cognizance. Funding side of it, we start with the medium-term fiscal framework. What's happening globally, what's happening at the continent, what's happening nationally. And then we begin to juxtapose that against our own ambition. And then we go to the medium-term revenue strategy. So we actually sit down with each MD, look at the revenue base, and determine we should be able to get X amount or Y amount. And that's for the MTRS, IGR. And then we go to federal allocation. Of course, I've told you we look at what's happening globally and all that. And we know the formula, we know how it's being shared. And then we are able to say, okay, so this is what will come to us. And then there's also the capital receipt side. Again, based on our fiscal responsibility law, based on our knowledge of debt management, so that's what we call the debt sustainability analysis. So we are able to say, this is the amount of capital receipts we can get. So I assure you, the 1 trillion is not just number crunching, it's something that we believe can happen, and God helping us, it will happen.
We're coming from a budget of 703 billion, and of course I recall the last time you were here, you were talking about the budget performance, and maybe this is December, maybe we talk about what has happened before we're going into what would happen next year. Maybe tell us a bit about the budget performance of the 2024.
Okay, thank you very much. Budget performance is actually quite promising. As at end of October, we had a funding performance of 77% and an expenditure performance of 60%. Of course, there's always a time lag. Funding will go ahead of the expenditure. We expect to close the year at around 80% performance, and that's what is making us audacious enough to take a quantum leap forward. Thank you.
One of the things that this government, President Abeokuta government, was applauded for in this year 2024 is IGR skyrocketing. Let me use that word. Now, I'd like to tell us the secret of that and your prospects for 2025. What is the benchmark?
Okay, I'll tell you the secret of that. What you're seeing is a result of the reforms that started since 2019, and that's why I said you are far too kind. Of course, the captain of the ship is very involved. That's His Excellency. The Chief Economic Advisor is very involved, and so one of the first things we did was to seek to block the leakages in the revenue space. And one thing that was done is what we call the digitization. So it's digitized. You can't go to any office now and begin to negotiate in a fraudulent manner the rates that you pay to government. No, it's digitized. So even if the guy is your brother, he can't reduce it for you. Of course, there are steps of getting a discount properly approved. I'm talking about criminality now, so that's out of it. So that has helped us. The other thing is that the digitization makes it easy for you to pay and makes it easy for us to collect. So before now, you could only pay Monday to Friday, 8 to 4. You have to walk into a bank. And then the banking system doesn't allow you to pay more than 10 million at a time. So imagine a man wants to pay us 50 million, he has to cut 5 drafts and all sorts of funny things. Plus there was also a lot of fraud in that space. So they could tender the same draft 4 times. But now it's digitized. For starters, you can pay 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days. That's transformational. So you see the revenue keeps coming up. And then what we've done in the last 2 years again was to do what we call the medium-term revenue strategy. So figures are not just brought up from the air. No. You drill down, what's the revenue base, what's possible to make here, what are the strategies to put in place to make that, and then there's monitoring and evaluation. So I can tell you, we've done 77 performance as at October. Next year, we believe we can only get better. We will increase that IGR, but we will not increase the burden on our people. Thank you.
All right, talking about the sectoral allocation of the 2025 budget, you have agriculture and industry having 6%, and of course, we talk about the need to grow what we eat. How much of that is going to be reflecting with this 6% allocation?
Thank you very much. I would first of all like to say that you can't just take 6% in isolation. What you've got to do is look at what the allocation was for 2024 and how it's going to grow. So in 2024, it was 2%. 2% of a lower figure. Now it's 6% of a higher figure. So we're moving from 14.3 billion to 65.4 billion. So a whole lot is going to happen in that space, you know. We of course understand the issues with food security, the issues with food inflation, and that's why a lot of money is going into that space. That money will, part of that will also go into the SME space, which is quite related, you know, because the reason our people are not getting economic transformation is that they keep doing agriculture. We're moving them into agribusiness. So they're actually business people, and they can make money out of that agriculture. We believe with that we'll be solving several problems. We will be solving food security and food inflation issues. We will be solving poverty issues. We will be helping SMEs, which are, you know, the engine room, and we will be helping the youths, because a lot of them are being, you know, put into this agri and SME space.
We seem to be having the same figure for health. In 2024, we have 13%, which is 134.54 billion naira. And of course, almost the same thing we have this 2025. How much of that can we say would reflect a different reality in 2025, with the state of health has been improved in Ogun State right now?
Well, Simiat, I'm sorry, but I think your figures are wrong.
Really?
As the custodian, as the preparer and the custodian of these figures, let me tell you the correct figures.
Okay, for 2024.
2024, 81.2 billion, which translates to 12%. 2025, the proposal is 134.5 billion. That's the figure you read out for 2025 one. Somebody gave you wrong figures, which translates to 13%. Now, 135 minus 81, that's like 50 billion extra, you know. So we plan to refurbish a further 80 PHCs in 2025. A lot of investment is also going to the OLABIMTAN University Teaching Hospital, and a lot of the general hospitals and state, in fact not a lot, all of them, you know, are going to get new equipment, going to get refurbishment. OLABIMTAN University is going to get a brand new trauma center. So there's a whole lot that is going to happen there, and that's an extra 50 billion in that sector, making 13%. Now, what we're doing in that sector is gradually moving to the 15% that is the international benchmark. So every year we keep growing. Time was when we were at 8%, today we're at 13%. The idea is to keep growing. And when you talk about those percentages, remember, 8% of a lower figure, 13% of a higher figure. So the quantum is actually huge. Believe me, if we spend 135 billion on the health sector, there will be remarkable change.
The budget has 600.98 billion for capital expenditure, which is a huge statement of the fact that how much you want to drive socio-economic development. Capital expenditure being far higher than the current expenditure. Now, in the area of hierarchy, what sector? I know the government has been tagged Mr. Road because of the speed at which roads are being fixed and the quality of the road. How is it going to drive infrastructure development?
Okay, thank you very much. So, first and foremost, the huge chunk there goes into the infrastructure sector, of course. And in the infrastructure sector, you have Ministry of Works, you have Ministry of Transportation, you have the Abeokuta Airport, you have a Bureau of Electrical Engineering Services, and huge chunks are going into those spaces, because it's not only roads. Thank you for your kind words. Of course, our governor is Mr. Road. We, just like you said, the roads and then the quality. What we've been doing is unprecedented because of the quality. You know, some of us even say maybe we should reduce the quality, but Mr. Governor is known for top quality, and he will say to you, best quality or nothing, you know. And so a lot of money is going to go into that. 27% of this entire budget is going to infrastructure sector. So a lot of roads will be done. Then rail, the rail system, we intend to latch on both the federal rail and the rail of Lagos State, you know, to bring them into Ogun State, you know. You also have heard about the Kajola dry port, inland dry port. So the rail is going to bring the stuff from the seaport. So you can actually import into Nigeria and say destination Kajola. So when it gets to Tinkan, all you do, you know, is to switch vessels. So this time you are going on to the train, and then it brings it in here. And from there, you can then go to other places in Nigeria. So a lot will be done on the roads, on the rail, full completion of the airport, you know, and then the dry port, amongst others. And then Ministry of Rural Development is also in that space. So they are going to work on the internal roads and the rural roads, you know. So this is the time that you now begin to see. Now, it's strategic. We started with roads linking Ogun State with other states. That's why you saw the Djibouti, where you saw those roads in Abeokuta local government, you know, and all that. Now, the next stage is roads between towns. It's strategic because we said we want to pull people from the overload in Lagos to come here, and we want to be the international industrial hub. So we've got to have those linkages. Now, having done quite a bit of that, we now move to between towns so that people can move from town to town, and that will help commerce. Now we're going to the phase of the rural roads to the cities, you know, so that also helps farm produce to move and all that. So we're going to see a lot of that, and we've been trying. In 2024, it was 416 billion to 287 billion. So it's deliberate. We want to spend more on capital than we do on recurrence. Thank you.
We'll take this very short break. When we return, we'll dive into other issues pertaining to the 2025 appropriation bill of Ogun State. Don't go anywhere. The program is still the Roundtable on OGTV, and our guest is Honorable Commissioner for Budget and Planning, Honorable OLABIMTAN. We are discussing the 2025 appropriation bill in Ogun State, currently before the Ogun State House of Assembly. All right, Timmy, you wanted to ask a question?
Okay, the Commissioner was talking about the 2025 appropriation, and of course the need for Ogun State, for instance, to be part of the global discussions with respect to the critical infrastructure and of course the need to pull people out of poverty. Recently, I think last week, the debate around the tax bill, bills now before the Senate is also one topic that would like to link to this particular one. So what will be the impact of those bills to our own appropriation in Ogun State in 2025? the revenue drive now?
Okay, thank you very much. You see, I like that bill, and I think the bill will do well for us. I mean, if you listen to Taiwo Yedele, I saw him on TVC, and he was saying the one state he expected to put up a fight is Lagos State. You see, Lagos State, not by their own making, but I don't want to lay any blame on anybody's doorstep. So let me explain to you my understanding of it. The original VAT law, as I know it, as I was taught and I practiced it, it doesn't matter where your head office is. It is where that sale and consumption happens that the tax will be, deducted and remitted to the tax office in that location. And so it was so easy to say this was collected in Okelewo, this was collected in Ilaru, and what have you. But over time, I don't know, due to laziness or inertia or whatever you call it, that system just broke down. And the next thing that you see is that FIRS just goes to the headquarters. Fortunately, or unfortunately for all of us, the majority of the headquarters are in Lagos State. And so Lagos State just gets all that money. Well, they don't get all that money. But they get a large chunk that should not be due to them. And so the major thing here is that we now want to go back to derivation. So all the consumption that have happened in Ogun State will get a mark for that. I think that is good for us as Ogun State, and I think it's good for the nation. For true federalism, I think it's a step in the right direction. So for us, we are looking forward to that bill, and I think it will, increase our, inflow somewhat. But we've got to be careful. There's a lot of debates going on out there. And by the way, what I've just told you is my own personal conviction. I do not speak on behalf of the government. This is me, private citizen, saying what I think. But I think that it will be good for us as a state and for the nation as well. Thank you.
All right. One of the things that this government will be remembered for is the Abeokuta airport. Yeah. And also the fact that the influx of industries in the last 5 years into Ogun State, increase in foreign direct investment. These data figures have shown. Now, how will these budgets push this further forward and probably make the airport operational, make more businesses come in, improve? How will it affect businesses?
Okay. Now, one thing I can tell you is that when we spend on infrastructure, we are investing and making the place attractive. The idea is to live, work, and play in Ogun State. That's the whole idea. And that's why we're doing all these roads, we're doing the hospitals, we're doing the new houses, the urban regeneration, because again, I'll tell you what is going on. Right now, Ogun State, you can call it blue-collar economy. Now, if you look at the structure of the IGR, you realize that the biggest chunk comes from OGIRS. That's personal income taxes. Good. So we have the civil servants, and then we have the factory workers that are blue collar, the general managers, the MDs, the executive directors, again live in Lagos. And so the huge tax is collected by Lagos State Internal Revenue Service. We are just struggling with the wonderful people whose income are quite low. So this is what we're trying to do. Because you see, when you see all those factories, they're companies. They pay companies income tax. So the tax goes to federal, not to us. You understand what I'm saying? So what this will do for us, if we make this place a place where you can live, work, and play, then we can attract the high net worth individuals to come here. That's why you also see a conscious effort in the Barra GRA regeneration. That's why you see a conscious effort in the Buhari estate, so that the MD of Nestle, the MD of Lever Brothers will not just come and visit and go back to Lagos. We want to attract high net worth individuals to live here, you know. And the more they live here, then they can, you know, invest in this place. The roads also help us with our plan to be an industrial and logistics hub. You know, once the roads are good and you can get here, you can get out of here quite easily, you have the rail working, then you won't have any problem locating your companies here. Now, the moment those companies come here, by the way, we're also doing the economic development clusters. So people just talk about the Abeokuta airport. Now, the Abeokuta airport is a huge investment, but it's just a fraction of the Remo development cluster, Remo economic development cluster, because the SAPs is also coming there. Special agro processing zone is also coming there. It's a huge city that is going to happen around there, and we have 6 of that in the plan that is going to happen. So there's going to be a whole ecosystem. People will work, live, and play, and that's going to affect the economy, because even the locals too begins to sell food to them, begins to, you know, rent houses to them. It's just something that we believe, we expect that with this, our GDP is actually going to shoot up to 8 trillion.
You're someone that would always talk about the need for monitoring and evaluation, irrespective of the spendings in different sectors. That of course would make the people, would make the government know that the monies being invested in these critical sectors go directly to where they need them to go. So how much of investment do we have in monitoring this monies that will be going into the different sectors come 2025? And of course, how that, of course, the structure needed for the feedback from the citizens as well.
Okay, thank you very much. What you asked is actually multifaceted, but I'll start with the M&E. You know, when this administration under Prince Dapo Abiodun started, M&E was actually almost non-existent in the state. Incidentally, the previous administration, you know, gave approval to set up an M&E department. It may interest you to note, on the 27th of May 2019. That's 2 days to the end of that administration. So essentially, the M&E department was only on paper when we came in, you know. But we quite understood the importance of M&E, so we've quickly ramped that up. And to underscore the importance of M&E, the World Bank, under the Ogun State Economic Transformation Project, is actually helping us with M&E reforms, you know, and, you know, supporting us technically and financially. So now we have a varied M&E system. And, you know, you talked about, you want to be sure the money went there. You see, M&E actually goes far more than that. Because you see, what was happening before was simply monitoring the input and the output. So we said we will build a hospital, we have built a hospital. Whether that hospital is improving healthcare, nobody cared. You understand me? And so that's where we have moved M&E to today. Right from the planning stage is not only about the output. Of course, the output is important. If you don't have the output, you won't go further. So for us, it's about the output, it's about the outcomes, and then about the impact of it. And we would already have the outcome we expect after that output and the impact we expect after that. And so that's actually what we work on. Yes, we've seen the output, but so again, for you to do this successfully, you must have a baseline. And so today, investments don't just happen, not because I like your face, I cite a hospital near your house. No. Data and baseline. People are dying at the rate of 10 people per 1,000 in that place. We need to put up a hospital that we treat them and then the death rate will go to 0 or 1 per 1,000, whatever. And so that's the issue, and that's what we actually do. So it's possible to see the output and not the outcome and the impact. But today we are able to work on that, and then we will tell you the M&E is actually in my ministry. So we will come to you and say to you, well, I thank God for your life. I've seen the hospital, but my data shows that the expected outcomes are not there, the expected impacts are not there. And then we give you feedback, which you will use for feed forward. So essentially, what do we need to do differently to achieve our goals? So all of that is happening today. Of course, there are internal reports. I mean, I won't come to the television and talk to you about the results of that, but we are getting better because that also helps the different MDAs. Now, in terms of the citizens, what do? We actually publish our quarterly reports. So we do quarterly budget reports and the accounts of the state, and we publish it on the website, and for everybody to see, and we're happy to answer questions. Thank you.
All right, this administration is built on 5 pillars. You call it the Share mantra.
Yeah.
The one in the middle is what I want to talk about, and that is education.
Okay.
We have seen tremendous giant strides, let me use that word, in the education sector, awards on every side and all of that. So what are we looking to achieve in 2025 with the budget on education?
What are we looking to achieve? The budget on education, for starters, is 17%. What are we looking to achieve? We are actually, the plan is to consolidate on what we've built up. Again, like I said, this is all part of the development strategy. What you are seeing today, they're not things that started today. So this is to consolidate. So, for instance, we've started the rebuilding, that's what I would call it, of the 8 technical colleges, and that will be completed in 2025. And they will be equipped with modern equipment, and that's to rejig our technical and vocational education, because you see that what has happened now is people go to Republic of Benin to get the best tires. You understand? You see all those big roads you see on the road used by big men. They don't give it to Nigerian mechanics. Those mechanics are either Turkish or Lebanese and all that, because we've killed that level of technical education totally in this place, and that's what we want to revive. The industries too don't have staff to use, so a lot of money is going to go into that to revive technical education. By the way, we also noticed that women are not applying to that, so there's going to be 1,000 scholarships for the girl child who wants to do that. And then of course there would also be renovation of more primary schools and secondary schools. That is going to happen. There's also going to be a lot of spending on STEM, so right now we've trained 750 teachers, science, technology, engineering and mathematics. Different style of teaching and all that. And so the plan is give them 750 laptops, and then as we move into next year we want to do another 3,000. So a lot of plans, but I will encourage you to invite the Commissioner for Education.
We sure will.
He will talk more about these things.
We sure will. Another thing that was highlighted by the governor, I heard him talk about it, is the extension of the red line and the blue line from Lagos to Ogun State. And also, he spoke about the Abeokuta, Lagos road. Now, the question I want to ask is, will this be completed in just a year? Because it looks like mission impossible.
Okay. Again, I will encourage you to
Invite
the Commissioner for Works, but I will tell you something. The Abeokuta Ota Lagos Road, of course, you know, has started. Now, whether it will be completed in 1 year, I'm sorry, I cannot tell you. However, you know, the plan for us is usually to complete within a year. That's the plan. But you know, what happens in construction is there will be delays. You know, the guy gets to a spot where he thought he would spend 1 week and then he spends 1 month, you know, the rains and stuff like that. So anything can happen. But the plan is to finish it within a year. But technically speaking, sometimes it crosses. Now, the rail as well. But you know, some of the things that happen in construction is that the best thing for you to do is actually to plan over the horizon. That's why, you know, we start with the medium-term expenditure framework. So over that period, that's what I can assure you of. Over that period, but His Excellency has actually given instruction that we should shoot for 1 year, and that we will.
Thank you so much. We're talking about a 1.054 trillion naira. Nigerians are also interested, the people of Ogun State are also interested how we would fund this particular budget. And of course, I think that is very important. At the end of the day, you know, some are already scared that they're going to increase the IGR, the tax for individuals or public companies. So maybe you'll try to give us more information concerning funding of this particular budget.
Okay, thank you very much. First and foremost, let me allay your fears. The tax rate is not determined by the subnational. The tax rate is determined at the federal level. The Personal Income Tax Act is a federal law. So we can't just sit in Ogun State and decide, oh, Simeon, your tax is now 30%. No. You understand me? But, you know, I talked about it earlier on, is the digitization, the blocking of the leakages. It is bringing into the tax net those who were not in the tax net before. You will be shocked. So let me tell you something. One of the critical indices that we use is the tax to GDP ratio. If you've been following the debate, that we really started by telling us that we have some of the lowest rates in the entire world. It's very simple. That metric tells me that we're dropping money on the table. So it is not to increase the burden of a simiat that has already been paying the correct tax. It is to fish out demand that has been using government facilities and has not been paying any taxes or not paying the right taxes. So don't worry, you have no fears if you have been doing the right thing. You know, so a lot of that is going to happen. And then I talked also about the revenue base. It's very simple. If we have 100,000 houses and we're supposed to collect X amount per house, a simple computation will show us if we've only been collecting from 20,000 houses out of 100,000. That's what I talked about when we're doing the medium-term revenue strategy. It's a very simple process. Mr. MDA, Chief Executive, you are supposed to collect taxes on this. This is your revenue base. What's going on? It's a very simple process. You find out that that IGR will simply go up because now he knows he needs to work harder, you know. And then the digitization, you can't even begin to imagine how that transforms the whole thing, you know. So of course you know that there will be more allocation from FAC as well, you know, because as the subsidy is removed, the money that used to be spent on the subsidy is now, you know, shared out to states. Let me assure you that we are very deliberate about not increasing the burden of those who are already doing the right thing. Thank you.
In preparing this appropriation bill that is currently before the House of Assembly, the Ogun State government have this style of getting inputs from the people.
That's
so
right.
It's more or less like a people-prepared budget. What now is expected to be the role of the people when this budget is finally passed and signed into law? What should be their role in actualizing the intention of government in this budget?
Okay, thank you very much. Their role, very simple. One, perform their civic duties. A major one being pay your taxes and levies that you ought to pay, because a lot is hinged on the IGR. That's number one. I would also encourage the citizens to monitor. You know, like I said, we publish every month, you know, the returns. Let's all monitor this thing together. We're happy to get feedback from the citizens. We are happy to listen to you, and you know, for that to help us, you know, feedback that will help us as we plan further. I also would like to plead with our citizens. Let's treat government property and government business as if it's our father's own and as if it's our own. I tell people, so when people ask me, is it your father's money? I say, yes, it's my father's money and my own money too. Because it's your tax. My father paid tax and I paid tax too. So when they ask you, is it your father's money? Say, yes, it's my father's money. And I'll tell you the difference. What will then happen is the way you will treat that item and that work will be different. And that's how I want all of us to see it. It's our business, it's our father's business, it's our mother's business, and we should treat government work and government matters as such. Thank you.
Right. One of the things that should happen in 2025 is the gateway games.
Yes.
I'm sure there's so much in the air. We've seen the structures at MKO Stadium. We've seen at the Jeja Sports Complex. This is more or less like world class. What is the budget saying to that games?
Okay, what's the budget saying to that game? Number one, the huge chunk of the allocation to the games is actually in the 2024 budget. I mean, you're already seeing the transformation like you said, so that can't be in 2025. You know, so but what we catered for in the 2025 bill is actually the hosting. You know, so that's what you have there. I can assure you that we have adequate funding, but interestingly, I must tell you that what you see in the budget is actually not the whole amount that they will be spending, because in the sports business, you don't spend your own money 100%. So we're spending money, but we're also getting, you know, partners, and we're getting donations and all that. But I can tell you that it's something to look forward to. Preparations are in top gear, and we will make you proud. Thank you.
You always, okay, let me say, the governor always speaks about PPP.
Yeah.
That has been a language, a terminology that I always hear him talk about. How much of involvement of PPP are we going to see in actualizing both the revenue drive for 2025 and even the expenditure side of 2025?
Okay. Well, as you know, we are very serious about PPP. It's very strategic for us. Number one, the kind of deficit we have on ground, we know we can't do it alone. You know, therefore, His Excellency encouraged us to go the PPP route. Now, you know, what you also see is that PPP is not as easy as people think. It's a tough journey, you know, but we're getting there slowly and steady, and we've made some very significant wins, you know. So the first thing was to even legalize it and make it sustainable. So for the first time, under His Excellency Prince Abeokuta, we have the PPP law. You know, before now, it was just at the whims and caprices of whoever is the governor. You don't operate like that. And that's how come we didn't have plenty people wanting to come in. Because they're also afraid, if the regime changes, then you're in trouble. So we have the PPP law. So we know the rules. We will play by the rules. It won't change because the governor has changed. Then we now have a PPP office. So you know who to talk to, right? But it takes time because of our environment and our climate, you know. But we're making wins. The hospital, the 250-bed hospital, that is the latest one, is the PPP office that birthed that. So now we have a partner that will run with that. We have a partner also at the Remo Development Cluster, not at the airport. The Remo Development Cluster,
okay.
No, and that's the Arise Grow, you know. And by the way, they are bringing in $400 million, you know. So, and we're going to continue along that trajectory, you know. Things that we can't fund, things that we think we don't have the technical capacity to deal with ourselves. Thank you.
All right. In the preparation of the 2025 appropriation bill, there were town hall meetings at the 3 senatorial districts.
Yeah.
How much of that is embedded in this present the bills now?
Thank you very much. I'd like to talk about citizens' engagements. Thank you. And then I'll give a bit of history. Again, before this administration, there used to be one town hall meeting here in Abeokuta, and people have to travel from far and near, from Ikokia, from Imeko, from Waterside, and you know, that's just crazy, you know. And so under the leadership of His Excellency Governor Abeokuta, we moved to 3 senatorial districts. That's to, you know, make more people attend, to hear from more people. And then 2 years ago, we felt it can't just be 3. We needed to expand it. And so we moved to 4. So now we do 4 divisional town hall meetings. And then, okay, so that's 3 years ago. Then 2 years ago, we sat down and said, no. Even 4 meetings, if you have an average of 2,000 per person in a meeting, we're talking of about 8 million. It's still not cutting it. And so we deployed technology. So today, right from June of every year, we deploy technology. So wherever you are in the world, you are not limited by time and space. You can give us your input. So I'll tell you, in 2022, we had 203 inputs. Now, when we say 203, it actually runs into several hundreds. However, you see a lot of people asking for one thing. So we synthesize that, and that's one for us. So we had 203, and 95% of that, making 193, found its way into the budget. In 2023, we had 377, and you see that big leap was because we deployed that technology, you know, and then 90% of that, making 340, found its way into the budget. This year we had 560 because we keep getting better, and then 466%, 466, making 83% of that found its way into the budget. Now you ask, it's not 100% each year.
Okay.
So the answer is very simple. You know, we always have the outer years. So what we do is we capture what we can capture based on our cost constraints, and then we put the balance in the remaining 2 years.
All right. Very quickly before we let you go, what is the role of the private sector in the implementation of this particular budget? You have 30 seconds, if possible, to answer that.
Okay. We welcome the private sector. Their role is huge, I must tell you. I've talked about the PPP side, so we want them to partner with us. There are so many opportunities. There are the development clusters there. There are the projects we like to do, and so we welcome the private sector. They will find us worthy partners. We want them to come and, you know, participate with us. We want them to come and live here, work here, play here and then invest here. Thank you very much.
All right, if you are looking for the land of possibilities, land of opportunities, and land of prosperity, Ogun State is that place. And we've been speaking in the last couple of minutes with the Honorable Commissioner for Budget and Planning in Ogun State, Honorable OLABIMTAN, and he has spoken so well, dissected, as it were, the appropriation bill of 2025. So, Simeon, let's go.
Thank you so much for being our guest today, and of course, thank you, viewers.
very much.
The program would continue next week. Keep watching the People's Daily. Bye for now.